think it's appropriate to start by complimenting Seattle on a hard-fought game, two teams fighting there tooth and nail. Significant game, obviously. They made the necessary plays to secure the victory, and really in all three phases. I thought the guys fought hard.
Welcome to the Steel City. Is everybody ready to go? It's proclaim the greatest radio show.
Welcome, fans, to our Week 12 Steelers recap. I'm your host, Jim Sella, in studio with Jay Dash. You just heard a little bit from Coach Tomlin about the game. The Pittsburgh Steelers dropped a heartbreaker, if you're a Steeler fan, 39-30 to the Seahawks. It just wasn't a good game all around. Every facet of the game, coaching, offense, defense, they all made their mistakes.
Well, if you look at Pittsburgh sports analysts, you say Big Ben, 456 yards, had a touchdown. The team put up 30 points, so the offense played great and the defense did terrible.
Yeah, the B squad doesn't really look in too much to the game. Do they even watch the game, I wonder? I think they just get drunk.
They must.
Because the offense, like you said, Big Ben put up the numbers, but they didn't run the ball. D'Angelo had 8 runs, I think, in the game. So they didn't control the clock. I said in the Steeler preview show that they needed to run the ball a little bit better to keep Seattle's offense off the field because they're explosive at home. And what happened? We throw. Ben comes in, throws too many picks. We put the defense in short fields, and then they give up a lot of third downs, and we lose the game. That's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, you could say they put up 30 points, so they did their job, but you look, they set Seattle up in great field position.
All day.
All day long, yeah. 4 turnovers. I said it how many times. If all you can do is pass, you're going to end up turning the ball over and setting the other team up for more opportunities, and that's exactly what they did. They set them up at the 24-yard line for their first touchdown. That was that Landry Jones pick on the
horrible
fake field goal, which was ridiculous.
Horrible play. Everything about that play was terrible.
Please believe. And then they set him up at the 37-yard line after a Big Ben pick. They set him up at the 39-yard line after a Big Ben pick. You could say this defense, yeah, they let up 39 points in this game, but it was mostly because of this offense and where they put him on the field.
Believe it. The reason I think most people were trying to say the offense did their job is Pittsburgh was the first team to score points in the first quarter at Seattle this year. The 18 points the Steelers scored in the first half was the 9th most in the stadium's history in a first half. So, Pittsburgh was putting up points at a record pace early in the game, and they didn't turn the ball over as heavily early in the game. They had the Landry Jones pick early on the stupid play call. Yeah, it was the second half where they really imploded because they went into the second half with a lead, correct?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, it was 18-14 at halftime, and then the defense went out and held Seattle to a 3-and-out on their first possession of the second half, and Pittsburgh went down and kicked a field goal after that. So it was 21-14 at one point, and then the defense went out and held them to another 3-and-out directly after that. So Pittsburgh had the ball in the third quarter up 21-14 in this game, and like you said, they didn't run D'Angelo Williams enough in this game. He did get involved, 7 catches for 88 yards along with that 29 yards rushing. But they needed to start putting the ball on the ground at that point. You had the lead in the third quarter. What do? Big Ben intercepted on the second play, first play, something like that. And you just set Seattle up in perfect field position. I think it took 2 plays for Seattle to go down and score after that. Yeah, it was a 36-yard catch by Graham on the first play. And then Thomas Rawls ran it in to make it 21-20. Cam Hayward came up with a big play, though, and blocked that extra point to keep the lead for Pittsburgh.
Why is it that Haley can never find an even ground with his play calling? It's either run, pass for the whole entire game and we lose because we could never get anything started, or it's throw, and never run the ball, and then we end up turning it over. Why doesn't he understand? I'm not saying go Bill Cowher style and shut it down at halftime. That was too early. But if you have the lead late in the third quarter, run the football. Stop throwing it all the way down the field when you're on the road against a team as good as Seattle is. You cannot give their offense a chance to score as many times as they had. They had 7 second-half possessions. It should have been 5, maybe even 4.
And if it was 5, I tell you what, those last 2 possessions Seattle had in this game, it was Baldwin had a 30-yard touchdown. They failed on the 2-point conversion. That made it 32-27. And then they had the 80-yard touchdown to Baldwin in the end. And really, yeah, you could say, hey, the defense, they let up 39 points in this game. Like we said, the offense put them in terrible position, and they were thrown all game. It was a terrible game plan. I don't understand it. They went into the game. Seattle was number 1 against the pass. and they were 10th against the run. So you figured they'd try to get the run going a little bit. Instead, it was just pass, pass, pass with Big Ben. And it looked great in the stat book, but it just didn't work in this game because, like we said, you said it before the game, if you give Seattle enough possessions, they can put up points, and that's exactly what they did.
Now, Wheaton's 201 yards for the Steelers was a great, I don't want to call it victory, but a great thing to see for Pittsburgh. We've been begging for them to get a third option in that passing game. I think it was more a product of the Seattle corners, and it wasn't even Kerry Williams. I kept saying in the preview show that Kerry Williams was going to play. It was this other guy. I can't remember his name, but he's actually taken the starting job away from Williams after 81 straight starts. He did a monster job against Martavis Bryant. Bryant was targeted 13 times, only 5 catches. Sherman kept Brown at 6 catches. Miller got the rib injury early in the game. So, I mean, it was almost Wheaton was the only other guy we had to throw to. And now he did play well, and he torched the middle of that field. And I'm pretty sure it was either a 28 or 29 yard play called back. So he would have had even more yards.
Yeah, it was a 28-yard reception, and it was a great catch, but just that it wasn't a catch. It was just that little bobble, or it wasn't even a bobble. His hands just came off by a centimeter.
So that was
28 yards there.
The lone bright spot. I don't even want to call Ben's 456 yards a bright spot because it was too much. We shouldn't have thrown the ball that much.
55 pass attempts is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's just not how you beat a team like Seattle. They thrive on turnovers. I mean, look at their defense. They're ball hawks, man. They hit you hard and they create turnovers. So I don't understand why you would give them the opportunity to get more turnovers than you should have. It's stupid.
Especially coming into the game. Seattle had 4 interceptions on the season. They doubled their total in this game.
And they could have had 5. I mean, really they had 5, but the one on the 2-point conversion didn't count.
Sherman, yeah. But you look at this receiving core, Antonio Brown versus Sherman. Sherman did a great job in shutting down Antonio Brown in this game. But I tell you what, the refs did help him out a little bit as well. That Ben pick was actually a penalty on Sherman, in my opinion. He shoved Antonio Brown to the ground, and he had his hands on him another time. But all in all, Sherman did a good job of shutting him down. Then your second guy, Martavis Bryant. This guy, it's a little bit of give and take with this guy, the good and the bad. You got to take both right now. He's going to be an elite receiver if he can just cut down on these mistakes. But you could see he has the big play potential too. He had the 11-yard touchdown run on that reverse, obviously. He had a 40-yard reception to put him down at the 11-yard line in the first drive of the second half. That ended in a field goal to make it 21-14 at that point. He also nearly came up with a great reception at the 2-yard line, you remember, on a drive that actually ended in a punt. If he could have came up with that catch, then we're talking about a different story here at the end of this game. But I'm not going to put that on him. It would have been a spectacular catch at that point. But you remember, he ran the wrong route early in the game, and he was right beside Antonio Brown when Big Ben tried to get the ball to him. He had a drop on a broken play, you remember, on the final drive of the first half. They did end up getting a TD anyways on that drive, but he was wide open. He's made some Limas Swede type drops this season as well. He also, I mean, you can throw him the ball 5 yards downfield and he can take it 80 yards to the house. So it's a little bit of give and take with this guy. I think Seattle did a good job of shutting him down as well, though. 5 catches, 69 yards in that rushing touchdown. So they did a great job of shutting down the 1 and 2. And like you said, Wheaton came up big. 9 catches, 201 yards in that touchdown. And really, it's not just the yardage here. He set them up for all their scoring plays pretty much. He had a 19-yard reception that went down to the 14-yard line on their first touchdown drive, the drive that ended with the Martavis Bryant touchdown. He had 3 receptions, including a 41-yard catch on the final drive of the first half that ended in a D'Angelo Williams 6-yard touchdown. That made it 18-14 at that point. He had the 69-yard touchdown reception, something we haven't seen out of Wheaton at all in his career. He took a pass and he took it to the zone himself, yards after the catch. That was big, and that made it 27-26 at that point. And like you said, the 28-yard reception that was barely overturned. Wheaton came up huge in this game, and is this something that, I'm not going to say we're going to see this more often, 200 yards or anything, but is he now a more reliable option for Ben if Antonio gets shut down or Bryant gets shut down, one or the other, or both.
I think it was more Heath getting the rib injury and losing your tight end, because I think the ball would have still went to Wheaton a little bit, but I think it would have went to Heath more often in the middle of the field if he was healthy for that whole game.
Yeah, it's possible, but I tell you what, Wheaton, he's made some bad drops this season. He made some great catches in this game. Like I said, he took one to the zone himself, outrunning defenders. He looked good in this game, and this is what people expected when they drafted him. Yeah, so I'm not going to go out and say this guy's going to be a beast, but it is nice to see that if something happens to one of our other two receivers, maybe Wheaton can step up. And maybe this is a game where he's going to turn around his career now, because everybody said this guy had the talent. They wanted this guy to be the number 2 receiver for the Steelers coming into this season. So maybe this is a turnaround game for him. But like you said, it could have been Heath coming out of the game as well. They were featuring him early in this game. Yeah, on all 3 drives in the first quarter, pretty much just the first quarter they were featuring him, but on all 3 drives, he was targeted on the first play of the game, had a 7-yard reception. On a second drive, which ended in a field goal, he had a 9-yard reception on a 3rd and 6 to keep the drive moving, and he had a 17-yard reception for a first down as well. And on the 3rd drive, he had an 8-yard reception on the first play. So they were featuring him early in this game, but he did end up going down and going out of the game. He came back in for a little bit, but then he did go back out.
Deshaun Sheed was the guy covering Martavis Bryant.
Yeah.
Kerry Williams was benched last week and late in the game after blowing an assignment, so he was actually inactive for this game.
How about Jesse James, man?
Oh, I love that dude.
I'm feeling, I mean, he has done nothing. If you're in fantasy or something, you
Oh,
probably don't even know this dude if you're not a Steeler fan. But I'm liking what I see out of him, and I hope they get him more involved each game moving forward. He has 3 games in a row now with at least 1 catch. He only had 1 catch in this game for 8 yards, but he came up with a big 2-point conversion as well. He looks good to me. I'd like to see him get downfield a little bit more, though.
He's going to have to shore up his blocking a little bit before he gets some more playing time. But I like him as our second option right now. I wouldn't mind bringing Heath back one more year next year, using James a little bit more, because he'll get a whole offseason to work and learn and shore up his blocking. And you could use Heath and Jesse James as a 1-2 the way that the Patriots used Gronk and the murderer Aaron Hernandez. I'm not saying Heath is Gronk, but I'm saying you could run a 2 tight end package like that.
But all in all, in this game, I totally disagree with any sports analyst that says the offense had a good game. You look, first quarter, 3 and out, a field goal, and an interception. The second quarter, the best quarter of this game. Like you said, in the first half, they had, the most points in Seattle?
Yeah.
So, and it was 18?
Yeah.
So, the second quarter was the big quarter. They had 2 touchdowns. Jacoby Jones, you remember, had a 36-yard return. There was a horse collar on that play. That actually set them up at Seattle's 49-yard line, and that was the one that ended with the Martavis 11-yard run. So the first touchdown of the game actually a lot to do with what Jacoby Jones did on that return right there. And then the second one, it was all Wheaton, like I was saying. He had the 3 big receptions that ended in the Williams touchdown. So that was the good quarter. You look in the third quarter, they had a field goal, a bent interception, and a punt. Fourth quarter, bent interception, a 69-yard touchdown by Wheaton. So Wheaton coming up big again in this game. And then the final 2 drives, they drove down to the 10-yard line, made it 1st and goal. That ended in a field goal. You need to come up with a touchdown there. They decided to go for a field goal late in that game to make it 32-30, thinking they could get the ball back, and it just didn't happen because you put your defense in a tough situation all day. You know, they're tired at that point, obviously.
Well, they got the ball back. They just let them score to do it.
Yeah. Please believe. And the final drive, Landry Jones interception again. So the second quarter, good quarter. Everything else, it looks terrible to me.
Now, the defense, I mean, I'm not going to hang them out to dry like some other people were, but they did get smoked down the middle of the field. 3 of the 5 touchdowns Seattle had were right up the middle of the field.
Yeah.
In the 35 pass plays, Wilson attempted 30 passes, completed 21. He was sacked twice and ran 3 times. They did force Seattle into 4 3-and-outs, but on a 3rd and 6 they converted, a 3rd and 16 they converted to a touchdown, 2 3rd and 10s, another 3rd and 16, and then another 3rd and 10 for a touchdown for Seattle, all converted. The defense has got to stop that. If the defense can stop that from happening, or the offense cannot put the defense out to dry, this is a much different game, and Pittsburgh definitely could have won this game. So as bad as it kind of looks, at least we did really hang in there. It was us shooting ourselves in the foot, and then Seattle's a good team, so they took advantage of it. If we played this way against like Cleveland or something, or one of the lesser teams in the league, like Jacksonville, you might end up winning this football game. But you will not beat the defending NFC champions by turning the ball over 4 times on offense and then letting them convert 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 third down. You know,
the third downs is what really...
It's too much. That was bad for the defense. That was a bad spot.
Yeah, it was. And really, it's on the corners in this game. And Antoine Blake especially. He was terrible in this game. And a lot of people were calling for Brandon Boykin at this point. This guy, Brandon Scavello, left a comment on our last segment, our preview here, and he's saying the reason they were playing Blake is because of his powerful hits, and that is why they were playing him, obviously. But you see, he can't tackle. Now, was it a bad game? Because he's played okay at some points this season, obviously. But is it time for Brandon Boykin to get a shot now that what we've seen this game? But you got to remember, the Steelers' defense, even though they've let up a lot of passing yards, they really haven't got beat by the big pass or anything. They kept everything in front of them. Yeah, the New England game. They kept everything in front of them so far this season. So really, the defense has been playing great, but this was a bad game out of them. Is it enough to move towards Brandon Boykin at this point?
I think so. I wanted Boykin to start over Blake. I'm not saying Blake hasn't played okay, but the biggest weakness on the team is Blake and Cockrell. They were both guys cut by other teams, and I'm not saying they haven't held their own, although we are like 27th or 28th against the pass. But the bend but don't break defense that we've been playing all year long completely snapped off in this game due to the short fields we had to defend and then the bad third down play. So I'm not completely blaming the defense for the problems. But they got no turnovers. That's been a big part of our game plan all year long. We've got turnovers. We have given our offense a short field. Imagine if we got 2 turnovers. Maybe we turn that into 14 more points and can win this football game. So Blake's aggressiveness came back to bite him in the ass this week. His waving his arms around at Doug Baldwin. You can't wave somebody over, buddy. You got to actually tackle him. He's not just going to fall down because you're waving your arms at him. So I say play Boykin. Can he play any worse? I mean, I'm not saying Blake has been complete garbage or anything, but I don't think Boykin's going to play at a much lower level.
I wouldn't think so. They just must not like Brandon Boykin. Since they brought him in, they just must think they were wrong. They were totally wrong about what they thought about this guy.
I mean, they traded for this guy. They gave up a draft pick for him, and then they let 2 guys who they just took, were scrubs off of somebody else's team and started them. And it's really amazing to me with how well Willie Gay played last year on the outside. I know he's not a great outside corner. We haven't even given him a shot really on the outside. He's pretty much been relegated to nickel corner all year long. I don't get it. And last year he had 3 pick sixes. This year, does he even have a pick? I'm not hating on him. I'm saying we're not putting him in the right position to play,
Yeah, you're right. The corner's just not good in this game. But still, I have to put it on the offense. You look, in the first quarter, Seattle only had 2 drives. They didn't come up with any points in that quarter. In the second quarter, the first touchdown they got, it was a 24-yard drive because the offense put them in a terrible situation. And then that's when Ryan Shazier came out of the game after this drive. And then Seattle's 4th drive was their best drive of the game, in my opinion. 11 plays, 85 yards, and a touchdown. And Jimmy Graham came up with some big plays on his drive, had a 17-yard catch on a 3rd and 10, had an 18-yard reception on a 3rd and long. This is those 3rd and longs you're talking about where they converted. Jermaine Kearse had a 22-yard reception and a 13-yard touchdown reception on that drive as well. So that was their best drive, and that was really the only time that I think the defense really let them down in this game. You look, they had a 3-and-out in the final drive of the first half. They had a 3-and-out to start the second half. They had a 3-and-out on their second drive of the second half. So they forced 3 3-and-outs in a row at one point. And then the offense turned it over and put them in bad field position again for another touchdown. On the final drive of the third quarter for Seattle, they had a 37-yard drive for a touchdown. That's when Jimmy Graham came up with a 36-yard reception there. So while he hasn't had the greatest of season for Seattle, we know Pittsburgh gets beat by the tight end, and Jimmy Graham was beating him, but he got hurt in this game, and he is done for the season, obviously.
He's in doubt for the start of next year, from what I've heard.
Yeah, I heard that today as well.
I like that dude, too. He's got, had a great career ahead of him, great athleticism, but Victor Cruz hasn't even seen the field. Has he even been active this year?
No, he's done for the season.
Yeah, that's a tough injury to come back from.
But look, so through 3 quarters, 2 of the touchdown drives were 37 yards or less because of your offense. 1 touchdown drive was 85 yards, and that is on the defense. So really 7 points is on the defense at this point in my mind. And then the fourth quarter starts with another 3 and out, and then another touchdown started at the 39-yard line. So still only 1 touchdown really on the defense at this point. Although it would have been nice for them to come up and stop them to a field goal or something, but I'm still not going to put that on them. And really, at that point, the game should have been over because the offense should have been running the clock more, running the ball more, and they wouldn't have had these 11th and 12th drives really when the defense fell apart because they were tired in this game, and the offense put them in terrible situations. I mean, they force a 3 and out, and then Ben gives it right back to them, and they got to come back on the field and make a play, and it just didn't happen. So these last 2 drives for Seattle, 2 long, quick drives. In fact, the final drive, 80 yards by Baldwin, what was it, 2 plays or whatever. So, yeah, the defense failed in the end, but those drives never should have happened.
Seattle was a perfect 4 for 4 in the red zone, too, so the defense didn't help themselves out there at all.
But like you said, Russell Wilson, 5 touchdowns in this game.
Crazy.
Career high. This guy, he looked great, and the Steelers have had some problems against mobile quarterbacks this season, even though they've blown out the other 2 they played,
right,
obviously. But those quarterbacks put up stats on them, and when you got a good team around them, you can see Russell Wilson did damage to him with Doug Baldwin, 6 catches, 145 yards, and 3 touchdowns. He was actually one of our situational starters or sleepers this week, so hopefully you listen to us on that. Jermaine Kearse came out of nowhere. He had not a Marcus Wheaton type game, but came out of nowhere like Marcus Wheaton. Jermaine Kearse is not that great of a player. 4 catches, 47 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And Jimmy Graham, like I said, 4 catches, 75 yards, and he did some good things in this game before going down. But Thomas Rawls, he looked great in this game, and I think this is the future running back for the Seattle Seahawks.
Believe it. Bye-bye,
and
Marshawn.
This is a guy that wasn't drafted at all. He was an undrafted rookie free agent, and he was featured early in this game. He actually had runs of 17 yards and 6 yards on the first drive, and runs of 10 yards and 6 yards on the second drive. That's 39 yards right there. That's pretty much half of his total. So he looked good all game. He stayed involved all game. But really, the Steelers started to shut down that run after those first 2 drives. But he still looked great. But it wasn't enough because Russell Wilson put it to him.
This was a big kick in the nards as far as our playoff positioning goes. Before the game, we were the 5th seed in the AFC. Felt pretty comfortable. Now we're the 8th seed. The Steelers, Chiefs, Texans, and Jets are all 6-5, but those 3 teams hold tiebreakers over Pittsburgh right now, their conference record. The good news for the Steelers is our last 5 games are against AFC teams, the Colts, Bengals, Broncos, Ravens, and Browns, so they can improve their conference record there. And it's gonna be tough. I mean, the last 2 games shouldn't be, but for some reason they will be. I know the Colts are without Andrew Luck, but Matt Hasselbeck, I think, is undefeated with the Colts this year. The Bengals game's obviously going to be tough. Brock Osweiler's not playing too bad. So to me, the playoffs start right now for Pittsburgh. And I know that I think it is the Jets and the Texans, they both play the Patriots before the end of the year. So hopefully the Patriots can help us out and beat those teams. So there might be 1 game margin of error for the Steelers. But if I'm Pittsburgh, I'm telling myself right now, we got to win these last 5 games or we don't have a shot.
Yeah, I think they can lose 1 more and they'd still find a way to get in if they went 4-1. But Kansas City, they have an easy schedule, so I see them getting in. And then I look around, and there's no one that really stands out above the Steelers to me. I mean, you got the New York Jets, the Colts. The Texans have actually turned it on recently, but I still believe the Steelers are a better team. But it starts this week. Indianapolis, they're at the top of their division right now. 6-5, I believe?
Yeah.
So you got 2 6-5 teams here playing next week. This is going to be a huge game for the playoff picture. And I just think back to what happened last season against Indianapolis and hope we get a repeat of that performance.
Now, here's something discerning. The Steelers have 1 win, 2 technically if you count San Francisco having a winning record when we beat them. But as of right now, we have one win over a team with a winning record. The Colts, the Bengals, and the Broncos all have a winning record. We got to win these football games. The Chiefs, like you said, they easy schedule. Oakland, San Diego, Baltimore, Cleveland, and Oakland again. Houston's got Buffalo, Patriots, Colts, Titans, and Jacksonville. And the Jets have the Giants, the Titans, the Cowboys, the Patriots, and Buffalo. So, yes, they're probably going to lose, but you know what I mean? I don't know. It scares the hell out of me. We've only beat one winning team, man. We're beating a bunch of bums.
Well, here's something to think about. If the Steelers win next week, they will still have only beaten one winning team because the Colts will be 6-6 at that point, and they will not be a winning team.
I guess, man. I guess if you want to try to stretch it out and look at it like that, it makes me feel a little better, but I still don't know if I like it. I don't know.
Seattle, they moved into the 6th spot in
Yeah.
the playoffs, and they have a big game this week. They go into Minnesota, and that's
It's a
going to
pick 'em. Can you believe that?
I mean, it should be a pick 'em. Minnesota's done it all season long. I know they had the letdown versus Green Bay a couple weeks ago, but Minnesota's been the team to beat out there outside of Carolina in the NFC. But I think I do like Seattle in that game. I think Seattle, Carolina, and Arizona are one of those three teams are going to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. I don't think it's going to be Green Bay. I'm hoping it's Carolina.
Me
but
too.
I wouldn't be surprised if Seattle made their 3rd straight Super Bowl.
Dude, I was just going to say, if they ran the table and didn't lose again until the Super Bowl this year, that wouldn't shock me. They're just, I hate them. I hate them. I hate Pete Carroll. I hate Russell Wilson. I hate everybody on their defense except for Cam Chancellor. I don't know. I just hate these guys, but they're so good, so I got to give them their props. They definitely could make a run for it and get to a 3rd straight Super Bowl. No team has done that since the Buffalo Bills did it when they went to 4 straight Super Bowls and lost all 4. And I think that's got to probably be the most depressing thing as a fan of any team ever. To lose 4 straight Super Bowls would be horrible. I'd rather not even make it.
Please believe.
Who do you got for offensive player of the game?
Well, who you got for least valuable player first?
Not Jacoby Jones, even though he was averaging minus .3 punt return yards when the game started. When the first punt sailed in the air, I seen the stat pop up.
Well, he had a couple nice kick returns. I think one was 27 yards, one was 36 yards. So he had a couple nice returns. And he had a 14-yard punt return as well. But I still don't trust this guy to do anything. And he almost fumbled the ball as well.
I am going to give it to Todd Haley because I hated his game plan. Throwing the ball
Mike
50
Tomlin
freaking times against
gotta
Seattle,
take some blame too.
just not smart. You know, it feels like Tomlin is so hands-off on his team. They were asking him about the Ben concussion and stuff, which Tomlin just reported a few minutes ago that Ben did have a concussion. Some people are saying that he did not. He did, according to Tomlin anyway. But he just says to the reporters asking him questions, that's all going on behind me. I don't know. I don't believe that he doesn't know. I'm not saying he's standing there watching it, but I guarantee you somebody came up and told him what happened. He knew. Don't say you don't know, Tomlin. A head coach knows everything that's going on with his team, and if he doesn't, there's something wrong there.
If you want to go with a defensive player, I'd say Antoine Blake. If you want to go with an offensive player, I'm going to go with Antonio Brown because, I mean, we're not going to say this name too often in the least valuable player segment, but Richard Sherman went out there and shut him down. We've heard so many times, no one can shut Antonio Brown down. Antonio Brown's just too good. There isn't a corner out there that can shut him down. And though Richard Sherman got some help from the refs, maybe a lot of help, who knows, but he went out there and did a pretty good job against him. Most valuable player offensively?
Marcus Wheaton. 9 catches, 201 yards. He's the 4th player in Steelers history to get 200 yards receiving. 2nd wide receiver to gain 200-plus receiving yards against Seattle in the history of their franchise. Wes Chandler in 1985 was the other guy to do it. It was the most yards by a wide receiver at CenturyLink Field that opened in 2002. And Wheaton has matched his career high for touchdown receptions from last year with 2. Yeah. I know that's not a lot, but hey, it's still a career high.
I'll tell you what, without Wheaton, this game would have been a blowout.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm going to go another way with it just because I don't want to pick the same thing. I'm going to say the offensive line because there was a horrible game plan in this game. They dropped back to pass, 57 times in this
Something
game?
Like that, man.
And they only let up 2 sacks, and we can't have Big Ben getting hit too much. I know he did go down anyways late in his game, but they did a good job of keeping pressure off of Big Ben. In fact, they only let up those 2 sacks, and they came within a span of 3 plays, and it was 3rd and 13, and Marcus Wheaton came up with a 15-yard reception after that, so the sacks didn't even hurt in the end.
What about defensive player of the game? I got Cam Hayward. 3 tackles, a sack, a blocked extra point. Dude's got 5 sacks on the year. He has at least 5 sacks for 3 consecutive years, joining Keith Willis as the only Steeler lineman to do that since the sack became official in '82. I'm sure Joe Green and company had it in the 70s. They just didn't track it. He's the 7th Steeler D lineman to have at least 20 career sacks with the team, and he's the first Steeler to block an extra point since Troy Polamalu in 2013. Gotta love them blocked extra points.
I guess I'll go with Mike Mitchell. I think he led the team in tackles. He had a forced fumble that could have been a huge turnover at that point, but they were unable to get the ball. It just went out of bounds. But yeah, Mike Mitchell was still running around and hitting hard, but I hear he is now in concussion protocol.
I don't know. I've read knee injury and I've read concussion protocol. I don't honestly know which one's true. I've seen more about the knee than the concussion, so I guess we'll just have to wait as the week moves on to find out.
Maybe he got a concussion in his knee.
He might have. I mean, he had a concussion or a slight concussion or whatever, I'm pretty sure, early in the month, like November 4th. I don't think it's a concussion this time. I think it was just misreported, maybe.
Was this a Super Bowl preview?
No.
Okay.
The Steelers are not going to make the Super Bowl. I love them. They just can't do it this year. Although I know a lot of other teams are beat up. But the road to the Super Bowl is going through New England this year, and let's just face it.
Well, I mean, one team knocks off New England, though, then...
Who's going to do that, though? I mean, Baltimore was... Denver's probably going to have to go into New England, too, and I don't see Osweiler winning in New England.
I don't either, but, never know, man. It's football. Strange things happen.
Believe it.
But if someone knocks off New England, is there a team that you think has a better shot than Pittsburgh at this point?
Cincinnati? Denver?
Ugh.
I mean,
Cincinnati. Come on, man.
The Bengals are 9-2 right now. What are we? 6-5?
Yeah, since he's won the division before.
6-6? I don't even know what we are.
Since he's won our division recently, not last year, but recently, and you see what they do in the playoffs.
Oh yeah, they blow it.
Exactly.
And I've been saying it all year. I've been waiting for them to blow it, but as of right now, they haven't started blowing it yet. So until they do,
But I'm never giving them a better chance than Pittsburgh. I don't care if Pittsburgh was 0-15 right now.
So if Pittsburgh goes in without a bye week and Cincinnati has the number 2 seed and gets a bye week, the Steelers still have a better chance even though they have to play more games.
I believe so.
Horrible.
No doubt, man. Cincinnati will lose that game. If it's against Pittsburgh, you gotta be kidding me. If Pittsburgh wins that first game, goes into Cincinnati, it's all over for Cincy.
If Andrew Luck comes back, I think the Colts can make noise, but a lacerated kidney and all that, I don't know. I don't know if he's 100% healthy till next year.
Bobby Hoyer.
Screw that, dude.
He's gonna win the Super Bowl.
I think the Chiefs got a legit shot to make some noise, but not like, I don't know. They're beatable. They're not unbeatable.
I don't think Alex Smith has it in him.
I think the Patriots are really the true number 1 team in the AFC.
Garbage.
Believe it. But that's all we got, fans. Hit us up on Twitter at bet_the_spread. Hit me up on Twitter at betjimthewin. Check out the Facebook page at facebook.com/betthespread. Keep coming back to YouTube. Click and subscribe. Here we go, Steelers. Playoffs are starting today.
Jesse James.